Good morning, good evening, good day, good night, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. And I am Sensei Al Bob, your griot, your storyteller. And welcome aboard to our channel, Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob on YouTube. Now, don't believe a word I say. It's up to you to define reality. Not me, not a church, not a government, not a TV station, not a network, not a cult, nothing. It's up to you. You are the captain of your ship, right? And we live, if you're in America, in an alleged republic, a democracy, where we, the people, to form a more perfect union, have come together, right, and agreed to a number of things, right? We have these amendments. The First Amendment, that Congress will make no rules, no laws to stop you from exercising your free speech, you being able to communicate or express yourself, either religiously, spiritually, socially, artistically, right? There should be no propaganda, no control, right? Also, you should not be stopped from having relations with groups of people that you want to hang out with, right? So now we're in a situation of a pandemic. Well, what is that? They say it's a virus, this novel nouveau riche 19, right? And you look at go look up in the dictionary or Google or Wikipedia, and there is no proof, no you know anything that isn't prejudice. Did you know that the CDC is a privately held corporation? Has nothing to do with the government. It's not run by the government, right? It is a corporation, right? Has a 501c3, has a number of nonprofits, and every medical big pharma belongs to it, gives its money, and then allows it to channel that money into research and things, to be a notoriety, to be the example, to be that person to tell you what to do with your body, right? And it's a private corporation, just like the Federal Reserve, our central bank, is a private corporation. The Federal Reserve has as much to do with the federal government as Federal Express. So it's up to you. Now, you can't just use your pudding head with the squirrel in the cage to come up with an opinion and say, well, that's what it is. No, you have to go inside your heart. If you cannot co-create a subjective, objective thesis of reality, then you're lost. If you can't, you know, measure it through your soul, right? You're lost, right? Because then you're just depending on the illusion of the material world. And our sensory system, sees 0.006% of the universe. That's all we got. In all our scientific whoop-de-doo, that's all we're registering, 0.006%. And when I went to school and took my first course in statistics and demographics, my teacher said, Hey, kids, I'm going to teach you how to lie with numbers. Pretty much any organization that says, oh, we have to the science. There is no such thing. It's like religion. Come on, it's a belief structure, right? And to stick a needle in you thinking that's going to make you better, right? So here's a little something from our friend Richie from Boston, right? And he has a doctor on who was, an MD, and she was running a emergency in a level 2 trauma center in Ohio, and she went to a conference about virology and immunology, and this was run by New England whoop-de-doo of medicine and Harvard, and they basically were saying, we don't know what it is. We can't tell you this actually works, right?
Vaccines. So I kind of, as I really kind of tout myself as one of the internationally known experts on problems with vaccines. I've written 2 books. I've written innumerable articles, blog posts. I've spoken at conferences all over the world and done literally hundreds, maybe hundreds of radio interviews, podcast interviews, television interviews, trying to sow the seeds to let people know that vaccination is not a religion. You can't say, I believe in vaccines. And to let people know that the vaccines are not safe. They've never been proven to protect you from getting sick, and they definitely can cause harm.
How well did that go over with your colleagues or your family or your close personal friends when you finally realized and started all those hours of research?
My close personal friends who trusted me, when I started telling them that what I was reading was from peer-reviewed mainstream medical journals, I wasn't getting my information from conspiratology.com, and I wasn't like going down conspiracy theory alley looking for that. I was reading things from the New England Journal and from JAMA and Pediatric Infectious Disease Journal, because after I left the National Vaccine Information Center meeting, that meeting in September that I went to, Kathy Williams, one of the co-founders, became a really good friend of mine. And she said, Sherry, you're a physician. You can read the medical journals and use their information against them. You don't have to guess. You don't have to go down to conspiracy theories. You can read what's really out there. And quite frankly, Richie, the more that I read, the further I went down the rabbit hole, I kept thinking sooner or later, I would find something that made sense. Sooner or later, I could find a reason for why we inject foreign matter into little babies and somehow think it's going to improve their health. So when I started telling this to friends and family members, they were shocked. They weren't like, well, what about polio and what about smallpox that you hear from the uninformed all the time? Mm-hmm. They were like, tell us more. This is really what you're finding? So within 6 months, I had created 2 courses. One was for parents and one was for physicians. It was really more naturopaths, chiropractors, and acupuncturists, really not the mainstream medical people. And I spent, there was a supplement company in California that hired me to teach all of the people who were their customer base. And for 2 years, every other weekend, I was on the road somewhere speaking at a seminar, talking to holistic practitioners, chiropractors, naturopaths, acupuncturists, nurse practitioners, the rare and occasional MD or DO on problems associated with vaccines. So I've been doing this for, like I said, almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years in September.
Let me ask you this. I didn't get a chance to run this by you before we went live. It just recently came to my attention, and I'm going to guess many people don't know this. The CDC is a privately owned for-profit company. I did not know that.
And they have a foundation too. They have a 501c3 foundation. They have a 501c4 lobbying arm. And in their 501c3 foundation, almost every major corporation that you can think of, whether it's in the healthcare, manufacturing, biomedical division or not, almost everybody is a member of their foundation. So they can shuffle money into them and get a tax deduction and shuffle it out in terms of grants on the other side.
I just recently found this out. I had no clue whatsoever at all. So what is your opinion seeing people, doctors like this, finally come out on the mainstream talking about getting the paperwork from the CDC where they're basically saying, yeah, broken arm, just listed as COVID-19. I mean, it's not. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not all that much. They're saying anybody with anything, they've given them a handy form where they can simply check off COVID-19. Why are they juking the stats if this pandemic is so? It stopped the entire world for over a month now.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what this physician said, because he was right. Because I remember about 2 days before he went live on this video, I remember seeing it from the CDC, and then also getting an email from the Ohio State Medical Board, because I'm located in Cleveland, Ohio. So, excuse me. So the same thing as what he said. I saw this, and they're like, if a patient is in the hospital with any type of comorbidity, whether it's heart problems, they've had lung conditions, they have COPD, they have asthma, they've had a perforated bowel, they had some sort of sepsis, and they die. If you suspect that maybe, just suspect, you don't have to test them, you don't have to swab them, you don't have to confirm it, but that perhaps they had been infected with the SARS-CoV virus, then you put down on the death certificate as one of the co-causes of death is the virus, is SARS-CoV or COVID-19. So they're stacking the deck to make it look like there's more and more people dying from this infection than what really is. It's like, if you suspect it, put it down as a potential cause of death. Not and really seriously, what that physician said in that video, he's absolutely right. Never have any of us. I mean, I felt when I was an ER doc, I mean, I was the director of an ER and a level 2 trauma center for 12 years. I mean, you know, you didn't have to put down as cause of death. I suspect that maybe it was like, no, this is what is the cause of death. This is what we know.
Something's afoot.
Now, if it was a homicide or a drug overdose or.
So, what do you think, internet friends? Hey, there's King. How you doing, King? Dirt plus water equals mud. Yep, mud people. Us. King, what you thinking?
Of Western Japan. In Walden, Henry David Thoreau famously observed that there are 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil to one striking at its root. And there can be no doubt that there are many thousands that are hacking away at the branches of the evil that we see spreading out before us in the name of this pandemic panic, diligently deconstructing the dissembling discourse of the disease doomsayers, and rightfully so. I count myself amongst them. However, if all we are doing is smacking down the lies that are being spread about this pandemic as soon as they arise, then we run the risk of missing that root of the evil altogether. So allow me, if you will, to take one hefty swipe at that root with my battle axe of truth by clearly stating and rejecting the new governing principle for society that we are being asked to accept on the basis of this pandemic pandemonium. Now, this new governing principle for society, of course, is implicit. I mean, we're going to sign onto it by our silent consent, not our explicit consent, but nonetheless, it rests on a hypothetical chain of infection that can take place in the event of a spreading infectious agent. Now, keep in mind, this has nothing to do with a novel coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2. This is about a general principle. But the principle holds that if there is a spreading infectious agent of some sort that is hypothetically infecting people around the globe, and you might become infected by this agent, and you might end up passing it on to someone else, who might end up passing it on to someone else, etc., etc., and somewhere down that chain of infection, someone who is immunocompromised might end up becoming infected, and they might be part of that sliver of a fraction of a percentage point of the population who might die from the disease. And if that were to take place, well, of course, every single link in that chain of infection should be classified as a murderer. And in order to prevent such a mass murder from taking place, governments around the world are not just empowered, but actually obligated to implement a sort of de facto medical martial law by following the pronouncements of the duly unelected health authorities to do whatever they deem necessary to prevent such a hypothetical chain of infection from taking place, up to and including quarantining people within the walls of their own homes, and or entering those walls to forcibly remove people from their own homes.
And at the moment, in most parts of the world, due to lockdown, most of the transmission that's actually happening in many countries now is happening in the household, at family level. In some senses, transmission has been taken off the streets and pushed back into family units. Now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified.
Well, you get the idea, right? Blah 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 blah. You're locked up, right? So, how you like them apples? You know, isn't it up to you to define your reality? Isn't that why we're here on this planet? You know? Well, today was a beautiful day. And I went around, we had some real severe rain last week, and part of my road turned into the mud apocalypse. And I live on top of a hill, so most of the water I don't get flooded and just can get a little muddy. So I went off to my neighborhood nursery, because they're actually cheaper than Lowe's. And I bought, a fifth of a yard of, little stones. And I bought half of that at Lowe's. Whoops. And it cost me $11. They were prettier stones. They were a little bigger, so I made an edge out of it. Hey, buddy, I got your Gmails. Thanks for all those links. They were right on. And anyway, so I was, doing gardening. I have a raised bank garden that used to be really pretty good, but my body couldn't do that kind of work. And the folks who I used to do it with, most of them died of drug overdoses or just bad physical things. And the grandmas, they all died. And they were the moving force of getting their families to garden, because when they were little kids, they used to garden. And this neighborhood here used to be the Garden of Paradise. Anyway, I bought a couple bags, again, at my garden center. They had 60-pound bags of topsoil, really grade A, manufactured by them, topsoil, for $3 a bag. And at Lowe's, they were selling bags of, God knows who made it, topsoil for $4 for 12 pounds. So I bought 2 of those bags, and it covered up, and I took my little weed whacker and whacked out the weeds that were in my raised bed, and I kind of turned it sideways and let it break up the dirt. And I don't know what I did with my pick. I'll have to look around for that. But I took one of those bags and just did a fourth of my raised bed, right? About 3 feet by 12 foot. And then I stuck in seeds that I got at my neighborhood nursery of corn, squash, tomatoes, pumpkins, broccoli. Just one little finger in the dirt, put the seed in there, cover it up, see what happens. And so that's what I did today. So it was, and it was kind of interesting because when I went into the nursery, everybody was standing 6 feet apart from each other. And I went in. Well, I also did some food shopping because today's the day my $52 of food stamps comes through. So I bought a bag of onions. Potatoes were on sale. I got 20 pounds of potatoes for $5. Bought a little cheese. Bought what else did I get? A few other a couple cans of beans, big cans of beans that were on sale. They were 48 cents a can, big can. And so what else did I get? That's all I got. So and that, I got a few other things. What else did I get? Oatmeal. Got a big thing of oatmeal. Big bag of rice. What else did I get? I think I bought a few other things. I can't remember what they were. And it was $24. And that's my little market that isn't a big corporation, right? So, thank you, Mr. Market. And they were very nice, Everybody was 6 feet away, And the lady knows me. I think she gave me her own. She used her own little card. And that why it cost $26 rather than $40 was I got her discount. And it was nice. So everybody was being nice with each other, right? And when I was at my nursery and there were all these guys there, and we're all 6 feet apart, then when someone says, well, maybe something good will come out of all of this. I said, that's right. What good will come out of this is that we treat each other with respect, nice, and empathy. And we will, from this point on, think for ourselves and not be told what to do. And they all kind of looked at me like, who's that guy? and they all said, he's right. and these guys knew each other like since grammar school. And they know who I am. But they, I'm a, they're a belonger. A person who has been around long enough that everybody knows, and I'm one of the mayors once told me, Al, we all love you because you're the only one. If there was anybody else like you, we'd have to kill you both. But because there's only one of you, we can put up with you because you keep bringing things to our attention that we need to be attentive to, right? And that's why my lawyer is the retired Supreme Court judge, right? He's still lawyering at 90, and so he's Mr. Respected. All I have to do is tell people, this guy's my lawyer. And they go, okay. So, food is so cheap. Well, because I'm a sharp, I only buy things I need, and I go to the stores that I know have the best price in those things I need. I don't buy everything from one store. And this one store, like I said, the lady was nice enough to use her little, she worked there and she gets a discount. So you stuck her little code in there and I got her discount. So it would have cost, instead of $24, probably would have been, close to 40. But she knows that I have no money. She knows that I'm the only, I've been there for the last year, and she's seen me do things. Like about a year ago, there's a guy who his wife died, and he was dying of cancer, right? And he's in chemo, and it's not a fun thing to go through. And pretty much he knows he's going to die, stage 4. All they're doing is, taking the money out of his pocket. And anyway, I saw him giving this young girl who worked at this supermarket a hard time for nothing, right? Because he felt crappy. So whenever I go to any store, if they have one of those little wagons, motorized battery, lazy boys with a basket, I drive it around. And because my legs, I can go up and down the forests, no problem. But they really hate concrete floors. My legs, my feet, my ankles don't like walking on concrete floors. So I ride around these little bastards. I mean, that's what it's for, guys like me. Right? So anyway, this guy is giving this girl, she's almost in tears. And I drive the motorized basket can't go any faster than 50 feet a second or not even that, 50 feet a minute. I mean, it's going slow, right? Really slow. So I, in slow motion, drive into this guy and push him away from the girl into a, cardboard box that's advertising something and has the right, some product. And he kind of sits, I push him to the point where he sits down into the box. Doesn't fall over, doesn't get hurt. It's like he's now sitting like I'm sitting. And now we're like two guys sitting and we can discourse. So I start talking to him. I'm like, so what's your problem? I mean, why were you, what was, what did she do that deserved what you were doing? And he, no, that's not the question. The question is, what's he do? And what's wrong? Anyway, so I got him to talk about everything about in his life that has been wrong. And then I said, so? And he said, what do you mean so? My wife died, did this happen, that happened, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, it's your life. You made all the choices to have that. My brother always says, you made your own choices. And he's right, And he says that like he's some kind of authority and it's your fault that this or that happened. Not so much. But yes, we do make our choices. So it's up to us to choose. Hey, Lana, darling. Buddy's here. Sofa King's here. We got 9 folks here. So anyway, I talked to him, and he's sitting in the cardboard box. The manager's watching me do this. The girls at the things who know this guy, who he's like all the people working in the supermarket, this guy has given him a hard time. And I ran him into a cardboard box, and he said, nobody came over and said, oh, you can't do that. I'm just watching. Anyway, so I talked to him for at least 40 minutes with him sitting in the cardboard display. And he, I get to the point where I start making him laugh by telling him stories and putting things into context. Anyway, so, I say, okay, it's time to get up, grab my basket. So he grabs the basket and I go in reverse and it kind of pulls him out of the cardboard box he's setting. And we both go to the counter and check out. And he goes in before me. I let him go before me. And he's really nice to everybody. And he thanks everybody. And he apologizes for being a mean, crabby guy for the last year and a half. And he goes out. And the cashier later is crying. He goes, oh, you can't, he's such a mean guy. And you just, you know. Anyway, I don't see him ever again. But every time I go into that supermarket, the manager or one of the ladies at the cash, at the register would tell me, that guy's changed since you ran him into that cardboard box. He's now the nicest guy. It's like Scrooge, right? And I was all three of the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future to this guy. And, I didn't see him again. We never ran into each other again. But I would get reports from the people at that supermarket until the day he died. And he died maybe 6 months later. And what he did do, which I said, you know what you should do? Stop taking the medicine, just have your own life, make your own decisions. Stop having these. Why are you really pissed off? Because you're letting these doctors tell you how you're going to die. I said, it's, late winter, early spring. It's going to be really nice. Enjoy the last days you have. I know where you live. You live on a really nice part of the lake. Go fishing every day, go do stuff, right? You don't have to go any far away. Just stay here and do stuff that makes you happy. And so when I would go to that supermarket, which is not, I don't go there. I don't go anywhere really that much. I just stay at the Deep Green and enjoy. And people would give me reports on this guy that he's doing exactly that. And then he died in his bed at home with, and he reconnected with his daughter who came and spent the last 3 months with him, taking care of him, as he left. Now, I did meet her. She kind of came and found me and thanked me for what I did with her father and her. And I didn't even know her, right? Now, I've done things like that. I do that stuff all the time. I just do it, and it has repercussions of good, bad, or indifferent as it goes along. And that's what we all need to do. And I've been talking about the alternative aesthetic, and that's the alternative aesthetic right there. Getting involved, not in a big way or joining a thing or having a march, but every day in every way, bringing the peace of love's co-creation, to your life and to everyone around you. So that's why the lady today used her little, code, and I pay $24 for my food instead of $40, because she knows that I only have $52, to eat, right? And I went to the food bank. Again, those people know me real well. I've talked to everybody in that church. And so when I showed up, they know exactly. They had boxes. They just put it, put their new protocol is if they can't stick it in your trunk, which they can't because my car, all the doors, the only doors that work are the two front ones, the two side ones in the back, and you got to open it. You got to roll the window down and open it from the inside. Won't open from the outside. So they put the boxes of food around my car, and I opened up the doors from the inside and stacked the boxes in there because they're not supposed to touch your car. And I was cracking jokes about it, right? And they were laughing. But so I don't have refrigeration, so I don't really get meat, right? So I have lots of beans, lots of rice, lots of canned vegetables for me. They had eggs and cheese, so they don't often have eggs, but they have this god awful, I don't even know what it is, meat, right? And it comes in big tubes, and it's like, anyway, and so she gave me a box of Slim Jims, saying, "These don't need to be refrigerated." I said, "Yeah, but if I eat those things, I'll be, they'll be digging me up like a Egyptian mummy." And she laughed about that. And let's see, how are you? I want to ask you about Sumerian, not the interrupt just discussion. Okay, so we can. I told you enough to get the chat going. So, Sumerians. What do you want to know about Sumerians? Doctors, gods. Yeah, doctors aren't gods. Can anyone see me? Fish. Hey, fish. We see you. Hello, buddy. Love human kindness, but meat makes you slow. Yep. So I don't have refrigeration, so I don't eat too much meat. I am no longer. You're welcome, fish. What are you talking about? Fish, you're always welcome. The only people I bop out, we were a no wrench zone. Well, that was fine for the chorus, but then we had trolls show up. And then someone said, "Hey, there are these three little dots," and I hit those and thought, "Oh, I can hide these people." So I do, right? And because I didn't even let the trolls troll on, but they don't add anything to it. You can be angry, you can be annoying, you can be any of the above, because pretty much the whole chorus is all of the above. But all of you folks who are the chorus or the cadre, you add something energetically to the group, right? Makes it all our relations. But the trolls don't. They say really stupid, awful things. And I'm so naive, I don't really catch on until I said, okay, and I went and looked at them. I saw energetically what they looked like. And I said, oh, okay. Whenever I see that, I'm just going to hit one of those three dots. I'm not even just think about it, just bing, because they're not really doing anything. Let's see. I said, thank you, fish. Hope you are also. Yep. Well, there is something about the Sumerians that I haven't learned about. Well, first of all, that we almost realize about Sumerians, they invented us. We are their lab project. Right now, not so much our soul. That's not, that you can't touch. Right now, powers that shouldn't be try to mess with it all the time. And again, our history books are a joke, meaning we as a species have been around about 1 million years. We as a soul energy have been around since the Big Bang. And again, we experience all of this in a linear way that doesn't exist. It's an illusion. In the Bible, it says from the Alpha and the Omega. That means from the beginning to the end. And that's what we are. And our soul is like this. But because we chose, because we had a free will, to eat from the tree of good and evil, we stuck ourselves in this sandbox, and different entities have been taking advantage of us ever since, right? And most of those entities come from a Luciferian point of view. Now, again, everything is created, nothing, love's co-creation is the only thing that is. Everything else is an illusion. So all this illusion has been manufactured for us to experience so we can learn to choose for ourselves through our free will to ascend our soul and not just get stuck in these low harmonics. So guys like the Sumerians and the people who made them, Sumerians just a cultural, air quotes, and they were back in the day, right? And they before them, the Atlanteans, Lemurians, and before them, the builders, and before them, the ancients, and before them were the people like, all of the, and the Bible talks about them, what's his name's wheel of light and angels and God talking from clouds. I mean, these are all obviously folk from another name, from another zip code, and usually coming, where's God? Up there. Where are the angels? Up there. So where's up there? Outer space. So it's only recent that we, in this time frame anyway, have gotten to get away, go off planet, right? And pretty much we have been assisted, the United States, England, and Germany, all before World War II, between the Civil War and, now there have been ET dimensional interventions, right? And pretty much, Harry Truman, FDR, Ike, all had physical interactions with him. Nixon. And so that's why our things are so screwed up. I mean, Kennedy was whacked because he was going to make a speech in Dallas saying, hey, we've been, ET has been here, little green guys have been here for a long time. And we, there are folks within the government who don't tell you anything, but, and he was going to, what they call disclosure. He was going to do it then, that day. And that's why he got whacked. And he go look at his speeches about, secret societies, and his speeches about, he gave a number of very, I'm going after the CIA. I'm going after the, Federal Reserve. I'm going after, he was really going to go after the deep state. I mean, he was taking it apart. He was having the Treasury print money. Ooh, last time an American president did that was Lincoln, and look what happened to him. So that's the Sumerians. Just another sock puppet. Just another one of the usual suspects, But some of us come out of the sea. Yeah, doesn't that mean the same as if we just stayed in the sea? Yeah, pretty much. Back to Eden and eat of its flesh. Zip code. Yep, choice. That's what it's about. Choice, right? And you made your own choices. Well, yes and no, because virtually all, because we have been put in this edifice of an avatar of an ugly bag of water, a mud puppet, we didn't choose that. We were, taken, right? And all the folks who experience, abduction, FDR, Harry Truman, and Ike all signed, because basically World War II was a continuation of World War I, and both of those wars were like most wars. The one that you see being fought right in front of you is just a surface kind of thing for other conflicts that are above it, right? And so, the reptilians went to the Nazis. The tall Nordics came to America, and the reptiles went to England. The tall Nordics went to the Nazis, and the Greys came to America. And all of them gave us a choice of peace, harmony, and world abundance, or the big gun. Everybody chose the big gun. And those clowns, giving us that offer knew we would choose the big gun. Now, if we go watch Laura Eisenhower, and I played her before, she's in, her great grandfather went to an air base in California, and the guys landed and they talked, and he signed because every time, these deals were cut, we were given a choice of peace, harmony, abundance, or the big gun, and we chose the big gun every time, right? Anyone ever heard of grays turn up during sleep paralysis? Yeah, that's what they do. That's how they abduct you. They wait for you to go to sleep, then they hit you with a ray. You wake up, or you don't, and but if you do, you're like, you can't move. You can move your eyeballs, but you can't say anything, can't do anything. And then they say, don't worry about it. This ain't going to hurt. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And basically, you were sold to them by, Chase Manhattan Bank, Mr. Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger. They all made these deals for the big gun. Ooh, ba-doo, boo, boo. Let's see. Mothman. Mothman is just, like I said, I'm starting to see this new character that's a cross between the Men in Black and a shadow guy, and I call him Mr. Wobbly because he kind of vibrates. The only thing that doesn't move is his eyes and his mouth. And the only thing that comes out of his mouth is I have to ask him questions, and he answers yes, no, not relevant, right? Control your nervous system. Yep. Well, freaking advertisements on television control your nervous system. You're hungry. Go in the kitchen and get that bag of cheese doodles. My brother is FBI. Usually, you don't see the grays coming. You don't see any of these. You can see them coming, but you have to. It's very interesting. I don't know if any of you have done this. So when I was in first grade, this nun nearly killed me by beating the ever-living snot out of me. She broke the orbit of this eye and broke my jaw, right? So I didn't talk much when I was a little kid, because I couldn't really talk too well because my mouth was wired, They didn't do such a great job. And it wasn't until I hung out with a Marino priest who kind of showed me a lot of things that I wasn't crazy. I wasn't this. I wasn't that. That all the things I was a really good thing. I just had to focus on it and do one thing at a time and do it really well and move on to the next. Right? And so I don't have the kind of peripheral vision that most people have. Right? My vision my two eyes, if I kind of relax my optic nerve, again, you got to meditate to be able to do this. And everything comes together. So what happens is if I'm watching TV, I can make, and there, let's say I'm watching a news program where they have, a number of talking heads. I can bring all of those talking heads together. And then I see their different personas on top of each other, right? So if I'm looking at a room, I can do that. And so my peripheral vision kind of, comes to here, but everything on the other side of it becomes more obvious. And that's where shapeshifters, people who can dimensionally move things, operate on that edge. So I kind of can, through my optic nerve, push everything kind of here, and then what most people see over here as a peripheral vision, I see that edge, that dimension. So man, there it is. I can see those guys walking around. And you too can do this. All I had to do is kind of practice going into state and looking in your Akashic record. There is a place in your Akashic record that gives you, the owner's manual of your bioenergetic persona of your bag of water. Boo. Let's see. Let's see. Sofa King. Why did you take your message out, Sofa? Let's see. Back to Eden. That's confronting. What did he say? The Greys can control your nervous system with implants, and it's not so much. Again, it's not like there are implants, but the implants that you found. I found a number of little granule things, and I have friends who are doctors and scientists, and I've had them take them out of me, and then, what is this thing? Look under really, electron microscopes, and whoa, what the heck is this? And they stopped it, because I would feel them, and I could break them up energetically, and it's like, and I don't care, and I'm aware of things, so they can't quite manipulate me. But he's right that they do have little things, but they don't even need that. They can go into your auric shield, right? And if you're unconscious, if you're just so focused on eating the cheese whiz straight out of the can, which I was doing earlier today, that's why I feel a little low guy. I found a thing of whipped cream and just, and, I was enjoying a little bit of the nitrous oxide, which is the propellant of the whipped cream in a can. If you hold the can straight up and just, you get the gas. And, but then I found myself on the living room floor with whipped cream coming out my nose. That's when the ETs will come and get you. So you got to watch out for that. and after it starts coming out of your nose and it blocks it up, it starts coming out your ears. So, but it's also a good way to clean that out instead of Q-tips. Thing of whipped cream out the nose, out the ears. So, don't want to bother these isms. Sweet Lana, it's your life. It's your soul. You can do whatever the heck you want with it, right? And it's always best to serve. If you're going to serve anybody or anything, loves co-creation, because the first person you're going to love in love's co-creation is yourself. First person you're going to deal with empathy and forgiveness is yourself. Once you forgive yourself, once you empathetic towards yourself, once you love yourself, man, you can do anything. You really can. Look at me. I was I was a little peanut of a guy who couldn't even speak, couldn't even see, And the Catholic Church just kept trying to kill me, What did I do to deserve that, The only thing that saved me was freaking Thomas Merton became a priest because he loved my mother. And my godfather, who baptized me, was, Cardinal Cushing, who, he was the first Catholic TV guy, like Billy Graham. And he wore a woman's black tea dress, had a little red beanie, had a red cape, and had red dancing slippers. And he looked like Bela Lugosi. He kind of would always I'd turn around and he'd be like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" It's like, So, but he really, like I said, he saved my life. If he didn't come and get me and take me out of that seminary, I would have been dead. Thank God for nitrous oxide. Yep. Yep. Yep, Sofa King. I'm not an alien implant. That is for sure. Yep. So, Sofa King, how come your messages? Who are you, Sofa King? You are an interesting individual. I'm not going to block you, but you are kind of interesting. Sofa King, you should get a hold of me at my Gmail, and anybody else who wants to talk to me individually, personally. That's today is a good day. Every day is a good day. The dude awake 42 at Gmail. Anyone want to get a hold of me? That's when they get a hold of me. But you are interesting, Sofa King. Your energetics is interesting. As is everyone else on the chat. That's why they're here. That's why they are. It is. That's right. It is. So, anyway, so this little, Nouveau Riche 19 is very interesting because it really is, like I said, this is year zero. We're beginning, right? Not end. We're at the beginning of a whole new thing, and not, as Buddy says, today is a good day. And that's year zero. Every day we wake up, today's a good day. And you go about your day making it a better day. So that's where we're at. So this is my Nouveau Riche. They say you're supposed to have a, this is how I went around today, like this. And it works much better than anything you can buy. I'm going to pull the hat down there. Yeah. So I have a sense that these morons who, because this is obviously a genetically engineered strain, just the way it's acting, and that it's, I think if you're scared of it, you die. If you're not scared of it, it doesn't really kill you. And but what it is doing is, and the morons like Micro Billy Penis, they think by destroying the same old same that they can rebuild their new world order. Well, sorry, because their new world order is the same old, new world order that our founding fathers, George Washington, Jefferson, Madison, all those guys, thought of. Same morons that started the Second Reich, which was the Holy Roman Empire. First Reich was the Egyptian Roman Empire. And they're all the same. But we are now on the windowsill of the open window of opportunity. Very ravishing, yes. I am always, the toothpick of style. Yep. So fracking full of it. Yep. Pretty much everything looks good on me, because it's all like diminishing. If I just start out me, whatever else I add is kind of colorful and interesting. So this is our opportunity. We can build whatever we want to build. It's like right in front of us. And I went and spent $11 on stone, and I rebuilt my driveway. I mean, it's not even a driveway; it's just a forest road. But next time it really rains hard, it's not going to get muddy. So, and every day I do 3 or 4 little things that make the deep green, a little better. I mean, it's still, freaking snowing now. It's like 20 this morning. Last 3 mornings, it's been, low 30s, high 20s. But it gets up into the 50s by 11 o'clock, right? And maybe edging towards 60 by 1 or 2 o'clock. So that's kind of Tom's Panic in the Year Zero, starring Ray Millard. Fear is the mind killer. Well, that's a mouthful. Panic in the. I don't really see panic. I see a lot of people bored, but not panicking. I don't see anybody panicking. I mean, if anyone's panicking, it's the usual suspects. The sock puppets in the legislatures. They're the ones who are panicking because they know the jig is up for them. That guy who was a senator in Wisconsin or whatever state, the governor wanted to postpone elections last week, and the Republicans needed it to happen because they want a certain guy to win the Supreme Court, state Supreme Court judgeship. And if it had been, postponed a month, his proponent would have, got his forces together to win that election. But by forcing it last week, this doddering old puddinhead won. And that's why they forced all, and they took away. They were in certain areas, especially this one minority area, there normally is 181 polling booths, and they closed it down to 5. So they pushed like 70,000 people together into 5 spaces and increased the exposure to novel 19, by 1,000%. And, so stuff like that it just shows the level of desperation and panic, and the Democrats aren't any better. They are Democrats, Republicans are just 2 wings of the same corporate oligarchy. Go read None Dare Quote Conspiracy by Gary Allen, who was a student of Dr. Quigley's, and Dr. Quigley was the historian for the CFR, and he wrote an amazing book called Hope and Tragedy. And it's because he was an inside guy, it's like everything what it is, right? And Gary Allen, I knew him pretty well. And he was a very interesting guy. So those are 2 really good books. Tom Sneeder. I can't even pronounce it. The New World Order is the Old World Order. The Empire never ended. Yep, it just keeps, rebranding. But that's why they're so desperate, because that's what happened in the last 26,000 years. That's what happened in the Piscean Age, getting what you want through power and violence. And now we're in the Aquarian age, 100%. There's no longer, the usual suspects and sock puppets. It's like Wile E. Coyote on that Acme rocket trying to go after the Roadrunner. He's right off the cliff and zip. The rocket's taking him higher and higher, and he's like tied to it. It's like, oh, a nice view. It's a put. Then the rocket engine ends, but the inertia is still carrying him up where he's getting to the apex. Well, we're past the apex. The Piscean, usual suspects are going, and they're still going, oh, it's a nice view, but that ground is coming up pretty quick, and that's the end of those guys, and that's why they're so desperate. They're doing this. The panic, I think, our friend is talking about, is that those morons are panicking. Well, we don't need to panic. We just, need to interact with each other, to serve love's co-creation, to create this alternative aesthetic. So, Tom, Mr. Sofa, Buddy, Fish, throw out some ideas of scenarios more to Fahrenheit 451 of the mind. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that works good. Yeah, we all need to memorize one book. One poem. I remember prayers. Bless us indeed, enlarge our territory. Put your hand upon our shoulder and keep us from evil, so we will do no harm. That's a good one. Suffer King. It's not the fall that kills you; it's the landing. Exactly. Exactly. I've taken some serious falls. I fell out of a third-story window of a building that each floor was 15 feet high, right? And they took out these gigantic windows and they were going to place them. And I was way up on this ladder, and some moron laborer hit my ladder with a 2x10 and knocked me off. And I was a moron. I was standing on, it's a 12-foot ladder, and I was standing on on the top of it, right? And there was nothing for me to hang on to. And I had my arms over my head, and I was reaching up for a box, and boom, and woo, and so I was like about 15 feet up. Well, it was 12 feet up in the air. But if I had hit the floor, I would have been. But I didn't. I went out the window, which they had taken out. There was no window there. There was just big open space, right? And I flew through that, and I was heading down just like Wile E. Coyote. And I was so high up that everyone had enough time to walk over to the windows and watch me go down. And as I was going down, I was heading for two large 30-yard dumpsters. One was full of concrete blocks that had been broken up and thrown in those things, right? And the other was full of fiberglass insulation that had been stuffed into large plastic garbage bags and thrown in there, right? So, and as I was going down, I was seeing these two dumpsters come up at me. And it was looking like, I'm either going to hit the two metal sides of these things that were right next to each other, or I was going to go into that dumpster of broken cinder blocks coming from like 90 feet up in the air, right? If I hit that, I would not be here. So what do you think happened? Miracle of miracles. I kind of rolled myself and I landed smack in the middle of the dumpster full of big plastic garbage bags with, fiberglass insulation in it. And it was like, poof. And I got up I was scratching for the next day or two, but I came out alive, and that's where we're heading. We're heading for that dumpster of, big black garbage bags full of fiberglass insulation. We'll be scratching for a while, but we'll be okay. Now the sock puppets, the usual suspects, the hidden hand. Uh, they're heading for the dumpster of cinder blocks. It's not the fall that kills you; it's the landing. Yep. Depends if you have wings or not. Yes. Yep. How many were there? How many were the construction site? Quite a few. I'd say it was a big. It's a industrial. Commercial. There had to be at least 30 to 60 guys who kind of saw me fly off the top of the ladder and out the window. And when I went into the dumpster, basically they were all applauding. Please clarify. Yeah, I'm confused myself between this, when Sofa made a very nice comment about it's not the fall that kills you, it's the landing. And so I gave, Azure Griot a nice little story about, the miraculous landing you can make, especially when there's the dire consequence of going into the dumpster of doom, right? And so, again, that's the limitations of chat. Is I can sense your energetics, but I'm not reading your minds, so I can't do that too well. So I try, but that's not one of my talents. And if anyone tells you that they are psychic and can read your mind, they are a flim-flam person. Now they can read me. What I do is I read your body tells. I look at your body language. I can sense your energetics. I can do all of that. And I can sense your energetics over the friggin' internet, but I can't read your mind. And I haven't met anybody who could so far. Couldn't have been more than 3, or you wouldn't be responding now. Again, I don't know. Anyway, back to the alternative aesthetic, right? It has to come from love's co-creation, which manifests. Love's co-creation is unlimited forgiveness, unlimited empathy, right? Unlimited abundance of hospitality. So those are the physical frames, and the realization and again, a word higher than empathy, but connectivity to all our relations, to everybody. So we don't take advantage of each other, right? Yeah, I'm freaking out. Not buddy, yo, don't worry about it. Just stay sofa king, okay? Just be sofa king. You don't have to be yo, And you can be part of, the cadre. You have a positive potential. But if you, slack or slink, into, trollness, then you're not adding to the positive motif, So come on, stick with your positive side, You make good points in a very tangential way, which I like. But if you have to go back to your ego ickiness, you're not really serving love's co-creation. You're serving your ego. I mean, by having to tell us that you are yo-yo, you could have stayed Sofa King, So, back in the day, that Sofa King, they would call you, a Stalinist obstructionist, So you're yo-yo, big deal. But as Sofa King, you're a lot more interesting than yo-yo, So just stay Sofa King, So we've been talking now, hour and 16 minutes, 31 seconds, right? So in, the parallax view of our present social situation, on planet Earth, we allegedly have a thing going on, the Nouveau 19, and why is it nouveau? Is because it's new, meaning it's a thing that they haven't seen. And if you go look at what's his name, I love this guy. Well, I love this guy.
We are being asked to accept this abrogation of our most precious freedoms, including our freedom to travel, our freedom of association and assembly, our freedom from arbitrary detention within the walls of our own home, our freedom of privacy in transaction and interaction, and other hard-fought freedoms that were purchased at the price of our forefathers' blood, on the basis of a novel coronavirus that is presenting a novel existential threat to humanity that has never before existed. But that, of course, is a lie, because every single flu season for your entire life, there have been just such hypothetical chains of infection that have taken place, and I have no doubt, let's put it on the table, I have no doubt that there is someone listening to my words right now who has been involved in some chain of infection that has ended up in some immunocompromised person dying. Never before has that person had to think of themselves as a murderer, let alone lock themselves within the confines of their own home to prevent such a murder from ever taking place again. But that is what we are being asked to accept right now. And I want this out on the table, because if we do not clearly articulate this principle that we're being asked to accept, then by our silence we will consent to it. We will tacitly, implicitly consent to what is taking place right now, and I want to clearly state it and clearly reject it. Now, there may be some people in the crowd who disagree with me. So, first of all, let me put something else out on the table and make it very clear that, of course, none of what I say is to in any way undermine the basic right that everyone always has had, and everyone always will have, to take whatever precautionary measures they feel is necessary in order to prevent such a chain of infection from taking place.
So, that's why I like him. He puts it pretty succinctly. And so we have an existential dilemma here with Sofa King, right? Because he wants us to realize that he's Yo-Yo, that he's Mr. Seven. Like I didn't know. Of course I knew. I just wanted you because as Sofa King, you made some interesting little parlays, and I, was gonna let that go because it was interesting, right? It wasn't boring. It wasn't egocentric. It wasn't pull up moo double dogging it video. Why would I even want to? Because Suffolk King, you are basically not wanting to be part of the cadre, So, and that is the only reason I would ever wrench anybody, right? When Sofa King first came on, I knew he was Yo-Yo. I knew he was Mr. Seven because he talks in the same syntax. His energy is of the same ilk, but he was trying something new. He actually was saying something interesting in there, but totally tangential to whatever the conversation was still interesting though. So, and Buddy and Tom and a few other people were going, what? Huh? What are you talking about? Yes. So, again, never going to wrench anybody unless they kind of do that. Meaning, if Sofa King had just stayed Sofa King, that's why I love living in big cities. Because you could be in, so New York City was my town. I lived there 30 years, on and off for 50 years. And other big cities that I lived in for a while, were the same thing. Meaning I could live in a neighborhood. I would hang out at a pub, a bar, a pool hall, whatever, had girlfriends, had a job. And then if I wanted to change my persona, whatever the heck I was doing, I could just go 3 or 4 blocks over there, get another apartment or another girlfriend or another job, and I'd still be, Al, but I could be doing it in a different way, That's why I've had so many different career paths, because I could always be an electrician, right? And then I got really good as a photographer. I could always be a photographer. Then I got really good at being a healer. But that had so much luggage to it. I did it for a while and I stopped doing it as a career path, right? Because so many people said, "Oh, well, you need to do this, you need to get licensed, you need to get a PhD, you need to blah 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 blah." No, I just wanted to be in a place where people knew I was, and they had a problem, they could come and visit, right? I'd give them a cup of tea. But no, they wanted me to teach. I taught at the Swedish Institute of Massage. I taught. And I was like 32 years old, and I was head of their alternative medicine department. I was like, really, My greatest respect and admiration for James Colbert, always. Yep. Tell us, Tom, who James Colbert was. If you would, share. What time is it? No, 10:15. I don't think I'm going to go past 11 p.m. I've been on for an hour and a half, give or take. Come on, who's James Colbert? Do I have to go to Google? James Colbert. Nope, it's not that guy. James Colbert. Yeah, that guy. They only have Stephen. Needed a scrub. Yep. And like I said, I'm not a big believer in the wrench, but the guy came on as Sofa King, and like I said, he made some interesting little comments. And if he wanted to get to be part of the cadre and the chorus, and he stayed Sofa King, I was going to let him stay there, and right off the bat, I knew who he was, but I didn't just get rid of him. I let him, he had to tell us that he was Yo-Yo. He had to tell us he was Mr. Seven, like it was a big surprise. But no, I was giving him slack. I was giving him benefit of doubt, like he was going to, oh, okay, he wants to try to play nice in the sandbox. Good. Okay. So, but I've learned that I got control of the 3 dots. I can go for it. It's like, what was that movie? Sylvester Stallone, Demolition Man, maybe? No. Where he was a policeman and, the prison system was they froze you, put you in suspended animation. And anyway, they brought him back to go after a supervillain. And he comes, and the biggest thing that kind of freaks him out is that they replaced toilet paper with 3 little shells. So you got to scoop the crap off your perineum instead of dabbing it. That was the biggest social conscious awakening Sylvester had. Was oh. Hey, that's what kind of a moron I am, buddy. I show you things I don't even know who he is, right? I just go, well, that's interesting. So, my greatest respect. Okay, so yeah, he is pretty cool, I have to say. Yeah, Judge Doom. Yep. Yep. So, we are at a place where we have this great opportunity. We got at least, let's see, it's May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So we got 7 months, 210 days, give or take. Yeah, we're actually at day 209 right now, where we got a lot of time to think about this alternative aesthetic. We have a lot of time we can mull it over and talk here as the cadre, because once we put it here on the show, in the ether of the YouTube, it's out in the consciousness of the whole friggin' planet. Even though, 24 people watch on the average every show, who are there, I mean, the little thing says 8 people, but when I go into the, at the end of the show, it shows me all the numbers. It's about 28 people who watch it during the show, and that number up there is the average of them watching right now all the time, right? So, and, if I go more than, an hour and a half, the average watching time is 10 hours. And that's why YouTube a year ago said, "Oh, wow, this is pretty cool. People really actually watch you. Maybe not a lot of people, but we could change that by upping you in the algorithm. So we want to buy you." And I said, "Say what?" I said, "Yeah, we want to buy you. We'll give you a lot of money and we'll put you at the top of the algorithm. We'll make you famous, but we want to own your content," meaning so they can get rid of it or do whatever the heck they wanted with it. And I said, "Well, thank you very much, but you're going to have to make a better offer than that, And so, yep, that Cobalt report who you just played. Yep, a clip of. Yep. See, I'm telling you, don't believe, I'm a moron, and I don't do anything to hide it. I don't try and spin it. It says, "Oh, okay." And yes, I do like that guy a lot because he, there are people like Truly Gracefulness, I think, a young lady who makes some really good YouTubes, but she produces them. I mean, she writes the script, has all the clips and the music and everything, does a great job. And the guys who do Truth Media, I think they're called. Again, another husband. They're either husband and wife or boyfriend and girl. They do a great show, and they just did one on what's going on here. The first one they did was funny because they went into Costco's and showed what morons they all were, and so yeah, that's for sure. Yep, yeah, that's for sure. And ow. But that's why I am your sensei griot, Al Bob. Only a moron can teach you guys. And again, a sensei is more or less than a teacher, right? That's why I'm a griot. I tell stories. It's really what I do. And you make up your own mind. My little, stories are just like going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So, thanks, buddy. So anyway, so there are a lot of really great voices. There's a lot of information coming out, and that's to say who's a moron. The hidden hand sure is because they have overplayed their hand. Way, way, way overplayed it. They really thought the general public is so mesmerized by their crap that they'll go along with this. You don't think so, right? And then they think, well, if people get out of hand, we'll just bring in the army and kill them all. I don't think so, because look what at Tiananmen Square. They basically, so they had these kids who made their own Statue of Liberty and wanted freedom, right? Oh, couldn't have that because the CCP is a pretty nasty bunch of sociopaths, and they have been since day one. And the day one, those guys were straight off the drawing board of, the Nazis. They came from that crew. They came from that same crew, at Columbia. That crew. They came from that same crew, at Columbia. That came out of the Tavistock Institute. you know, that came out of the Roman Empire. These are the same fools, right? And that was, go look where Chairman Mao was educated, where he came from. He was a Rhodes Scholar of sorts. You know, see where he came from as a child. The people who mentored him. I mean, he is like the Chinese version of Bill Clinton, or Bill Clinton is the Chinese version of Mao Zedong, one or the other, however you want to look at it. And so these clowns are way overplaying their hand. They do much better when they sit in the back and not get noticed. And they've been so, just like Yo-Yo there, had to tell us, couldn't just stay Sofa King, which he was great as Sofa King. And that's why folks like that are really great, because they are physical representations right in front of us as part of the crew. Everyone was going, who is this guy? And would ask him questions in such a way that, he had to tell us, that he was Mr. Seven, that he was Yo-Yo, like we didn't freaking know. We were just being nice, hoping that his better self that's there would come out. And that's what I'm seeing of human nature response to this Nova 19, right? Is that the general thing? People aren't panicking. They aren't getting, and, so I'm in this place and I'm in, within 30 miles of 4 different states. And my car can make that, and there are little towns that I go to, that I go shopping at, and I've been part of the last 20 years, so people know me there. I can go and visit the mayor, or I can go visit a lawyer or two, or I can go visit the chief of police. I can go, these people I know, and I can walk in and they're not threatened by me because they know me. And I can say whatever I want to say because they know I'm going to say whatever I'm going to say. Just like I said at my neighborhood nursery, And I said certain things that these folks have been thinking but not talking about. And I said it in 3 sentences, and they all were like, huh, who's this guy? And then they looked at me, oh, that's Al. Yeah, of course he's going to say that. I've been thinking it. He's going to say it, right? So, but they then also kind of, agreed with my observations, and were kind of, lightened by it. The guy who helped me with the stone, because I went in there and told him what I wanted, and then the boss said, hey, go get it for Al. Normal state, like I said, it was in another state, but she was still fearful, because I know I've had a lot of conversations with her, and she kind of forgets stuff that, I've known her like, 4 years, and she told me everything about herself and everything about everything. And, people in her little town, they know her, and they've told me everything about her. So I know everything about her. And so when I said something to her today at breakfast, I came in and there was nobody there. And I said, give me the full, I want, biscuits and gravy and, eggs over easy and potatoes and sausage and pancakes, because that would be, about $11, a big sale for her. So I have no money. So I went and did that, and I ate it outside because she has a nice porch and she has tables and chairs out there, and the sun was hitting it. And I went right. And so she came and brought it out, and we talked a little bit. And I said a few things. I'm like, I know her really well because she's told me everything about her. And then all the people in her little town have told me everything about her. And so when I started talking about this into context of her life, she had forgot she had told me all about her, and it kind of freaked her out. Like, who are you? Well, it's the guy, you know me, Al. I've been coming here the last 4 years, Anyway, but that shows that even though she's being brave and keeping her restaurant open, and she has to because she has no other way to make money. And this is her like big shot at success, and she was succeeding really well because the place is right on the edge of these three states, right on this only county road that goes between them, and it's the only place you can get a pretty good meal for a good price. And it was in a valley where there were all these old farmers who would come and have their breakfast and their lunch, and they just talk. She had a big long table; they don't sit, and they're still coming and doing that. And she's not telling them, she's got a sign saying, you have to eat outside, but she doesn't enforce it. And she just has a sign saying, know, want to go and sit at those tables? She lets people do it. So she's being brave, but she's scared, right? So when I talked real to her, it kind of freaked her out a little. So, and that's another thing I'm saying, is that people are trying to be brave in a way that they're still kind of unconscious about it. But what's your take on the prophecy of revolution? Revolution 12? What is the prophecy of Revolution 12? Revelation? Oh, Revelations. Oh. I thought it was a Beatles song. Number 9, number 9, number 9, number 9. Anyway, all of the revelations are so generalistic, but meant to be really specific so you can, grab your attention. Good on you. It's one of my favorite terms. I tell Americans that all the time. Good on you, mate. And they don't know what the frack I'm talking about. A surprising, I think, bullshit. Maybe there is a light on somewhere. Yeah, there's always, but which light is it? Is it the incandescent light of Lucifer or the photonic light of love's co-creation? Lucifer is a grand illusionary, so there's always shadow. Like, look, right? So this is an incandescent light over my head. What does it show? A shadow, Whereas here we have the photonic light, right? And there is no shadow. I'm making, believe that there's no shadow, but there is no shadow, right? The light was coming from this angle. There would be, but it's coming from this angle. So anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So yes, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. There's, we are meant to succeed. Might take us forever, but we are meant to succeed. Yep. Love wins every time. Every time. Every time. Vim Divine. I agree with you, Vim Divine. And thank you for that message. Yep. Love's the only, love is the only reality. Everything else is illusion. If why I try to lead you through, and just by example, I'm not trying to force you to do anything. My mom would always say, you can drag a horse to water, can't make it drink. So meditation really is the number one tool because it shuts down the squirrel, it opens your heart, it enables you to go into your Akashic record and into your sanctuary of your own choosing, So that's where we're at. And this little, Nouveau 19 is really a blessing because it's going to force a great majority of us to stop sticking our head in our sand, stop distracting, stop living a life of a duplicity, stop us because, our whole cultural base is based on, duplicity, fear, anxiety, self-loathing, you know, and all our leaders are sociopaths, you know. If everything, you know, your religious, your economic, your political, your moral, your theologic, you name it, um, examples are sociopaths, you know. You know, when the Catholic Church is, you know, just a pretty dark entity, and you know, all you have to do is look at those old men in the Vatican. You know, the present Pope. You know, he's no, you know, dude of the masses. You know, uh, the Archbishop or of El Salvador, Romeros. You know, he was the guy who was being like Jesus. You know, and he was called on the carpet by the Pope at that time and said, "Stop it," you know, and was cast, you know, said, "You're doing a really bad. You're a communist. You're terrible." Blah 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 blah. And he said, "Okay, thank you very much," and got back on the airplane, went back to El Salvador, went to his church, was giving mass, and within 6 to 10 hours of him landing, the death squad came in and blew him away right on the altar in front of his flock of 1,000 or so people. It was on TV. And it only happened because the Pope basically said, "You're a terrible person. I am not protecting you. The Vatican, the Holy Seal doesn't, you know, get out of here. You know, you're going to get defrocked if you keep doing this." And he went back, and that was enough of an okay by the Catholic Church to blow this guy away on television. For Holocaust, every single one of them. You know, what happened in Yugoslavia? You know, I was in Sarajevo in '77 when they had the Olympics. Unbelievably beautiful city. Just the creme de la creme. And it was the top of the heap of the communist satellite system, right? But, you know, so I was sent there to take photos of the Olympics. Now, I didn't really, I went to the, you know, I had tickets, I had passes, I had the whole thing. But no, what I did was I went and looked and talked to people who were in Sarajevo. Here, I mean, hey, that sounds great. I'm gonna get paid. You're gonna put me in a hotel. You're gonna pay for my transportation, and I'm gonna have an all-in pass. Great, but you know the kind of pictures I take. It's not gonna say, yeah. That's why I'm sending you. I want you to get those images of how people. I said, okay. So I spent a good 3 weeks there, not just for, you know, I was there almost a week before and almost a week after, and I guess maybe a month, you know, because the Olympics took about 2 weeks, maybe even longer. Anyway, and then, you know, the Iron Curtain falls, and that's when I knew communism, Russia, because I was staying at this hotel where the bathroom was bigger than the apartment that I had in New York City, but they only had 6 squares of toilet paper for a week. And I used that up in one, you know, one loaf, you know. And I got on the phone and said, "Hey, what's the story about 6 slices of toilet paper? Where's the roll?" And they go, "No." The lady said, "No, that is your allotment for the week." I said, "What?" And she goes, "And don't use the sheets or the, you know, the towels where we're coming after you." And so I said, "So what do I do?" She says, "You got to do like everybody else. You got to go to the black market and buy a couple of rolls of toilet paper for $10 American a piece." That's how much they cost. And they were crappy rolls, you know, the kind of rolls you get, you know, in that 4-pack you get at the Dollar Tree. Well, $10 got you just one roll like that. But it was worse than that because the paper was like, you know, the same kind of paper that shopping bags are made out of. You know, it was like, really? I spent almost $50 on a roll of Charmin. So I knew that the communist thing was not working, right? If this is the best they can do, then everybody, there's loads of food in the supermarket. There's lots of, sausages and cheese and vegetables and bread, but there's nothing else. No soaps, no this, no that, no toiletries, except for the, super bottom of it. Anyway, then 8-9 years later, 77, 90 something, I guess it was a little longer, maybe 15 years later, curtain falls, Yugoslavia falls apart. And these groups that had been living together for almost 70 years, had married into each other's families, started killing each other. And Bolan Tslan Lobelich, whatever his name was, put 77 millimeter anti-aircraft guns ringing Sarajevo, and was shooting anti-aircraft shells, things that are supposed to shoot down aircraft, at people who were going out to try to find something to feed their kids. And they blew that city, a beautiful city, had been around 1,000 years and was just a unbelievable thing of culture. They obliterated it and got rid of history. By blowing that town up, they got rid of history. Same thing in Syria. Syria was this not only East meets West, but China, meaning they had Buddhist temples in Syria that were amazing, blew them apart. ISIS blew them up, and destroyed culture and history. And that's what these wars were about, to nullify a whole, cohort of culture, right? And that's what we have to build by creating this alternative aesthetic. Instead of embracing the golden cow of commerce, that can't be, and that's why Jesus threw the money changers out of the temple. And that's why they put him on the cross, and they had it, the crowd, saw him as their savior, and were putting the palms. Now, Jesus knew he had to go because he had to fulfill a bunch of things, to be a lucky bastard. But that's where we're at again. But what's interesting, it's not going to be just one individual. It's or one cohort of a class or species. It's going to be us all. Where everyone now has skin in the game, and everyone knows it. Meaning, my family and other people I know who have done really well and have had a very comfortable life. And the last 50 years, I constantly, why, Al, you're smarter than any of us. Why are you living with the poor? Why are you always, dealing with these social? You had opportunities, to make millions. How come you didn't do that? Well, because that's not what I was put on this earth for. I made a little agreement with Love's Co-Creation that I'd be, it's lucky bastard, and I am I am just a griot, the guy to tell you a story. That's it. I'm now I can be, the guy in the background whispering into the hero's ear, I can be the court jester. I can be the court magician. But I've had that position a number of times, So, and the United States, we are not a capitalist country. They would not have given $7 trillion to corporations and a measly $60 billion to the rest of the 360 million people in America. Not even those guys are going to get it, right? We're in a pandemic. If there wasn't a time for, single payer health care, I don't know what is. But, micro penis Billy, he's going to make a lot of money on vaccines, and all those guys who have stock in the CDC going to make a lot of money. Dr. Anthony. Look at that guy's background. He was really involved in AIDS, and go talk to some AIDS activists of the '80s, what they think of Anthony. And that chick with the scarf, it was like the facilitary of the group. Go look at her background. Look where who her daughters work for, who she worked for. I mean, the whole thing is always follow the money. So, and they can't help but look like, and the guy who is the admiral of medicine, he reminds me of the character who's playing, Colin Powell in When Mars Invades. He's like talking on his cell phone just before the Martians land. I knew if I just didn't make a fuss, just did what they said and always was the good, I would be. And now here I am on TV and I am greeting an extraterrestrial race, and he's the first one to get zapped, beep, beep. And so that guy, he's the guy who said, you don't have to wear masks. Everyone, you look at everyone around the friggin' world. Now, yes, he's right. See, people lie so much in this administration. They come all the way around and tell the truth. The malaria drug that is supposed to help you out in this. See, the thing about the Nuvo 19 is it's not just one. There's 3 strains, A, B, and C, right? A is what came out first in China, and everyone just kind of got a cold, and that's why, the CCP didn't jump. I mean, they knew it. I mean, they are now saying, "Oh yeah, we think it came out of this lab, by mistake." But it's a natural thing. We were just kind of fooling around with the stuff because we were feeling inferior. We wanted to show America that we too can, look at this stuff, right? No, it is a bioengineered RNA strand, first, created by a virologist from Harvard, who then went to Canada and in a military bacteriologic warfare lab in Canada, went at it and then brought that to China, right? And he worked at that lab in Hulan because it's the most down low, but a lot of virologists had, once that lab opened like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, a lot of people said, hey, these guys are like, doing level 6, biohazard research in a garage. We better watch out for this. So this thing either got let go by gross incompetence, or there's 3 ways it's got out. Gross incompetence, somebody infected themselves, freaked out, and ran out the door, just like in Stephen King's The Stand. Go watch that movie. ABC made it as a miniseries, but read the book. It's very good. Stephen King writes some pretty good stuff. A lot of it is like, but a lot of it's pretty good. And a lot of it is really well written and then translates into movies quite well, like The Shining. But they did have Stanley Kubrick as the director. So, and the third one is that, The CCP, if you ever seen any pictures of when the whole crew gets together, it's like, they got 1.6 billion people. So whenever, our little Congress has about 300 people in it, this thing's got thousands. I mean, it's got this great hall. Now, there are a lot of people who, they don't all, even though they are a dictatorial oligarchy, there are a lot of different factions. And it didn't settle right when Xi put himself up to be the guy for the rest of his life. He wanted to be the next. He wanted to go back to Mao, and there were a lot of guys who were making a lot of money, and as soon as they were being going after, having billions of dollars in China wasn't, it used to be, a one-way ticket to success, but Xi was going after those guys. So they said, we got to get rid of this guy. So we have to show how incompetent it is. So look, these morons have been playing with this thing. Why don't we just let it go in China? That we got enough people, so 1 million or so die, and no big deal. Hey, and if it breaks out, those other guys, and Xi, back in October said, we're at war with America, when Donnie was slapping on tariffs, she said, this is war. Well, maybe it was, and they're pretty happy that our Navy, we've just spent $1 trillion on upgrading our Navy in the last 4 years. Well, forget that, because we don't have any guys and gals to put on those ships. They all got the coronavirus because nobody was watching out for that. Where China, it's very interesting. French Navy going down, corona. English Navy going down to corona. American Navy really going down to corona. Russian Navy going down to corona. The one Navy that's in the two navies that aren't going down to corona are the Japanese Navy and the Chinese Navy. And what's interesting about the Japanese Navy is that it is like the fourth, is the American Navy number one, right? France and England, NATO number two, Russia number three, Japan number four. And in many ways, it's number two because it has the most modern ships, the most totally integrated command and control structure. So what we're looking at is a really interesting, the rest of the West is going to be sick with a cold, and Japan and China are going to go after it. And it's going to basically state who's now, people say, well, the Chinese have, atomic, nuclear weapons. Well, so does Japan. They have more reactors than almost anybody other than us. So they have a lot of plutonium stacked away, right? And they are not dummies. They themselves, they had a Manhattan Project, and they had a before Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So that's why they knew, after that mushroom cloud went up over those two cities, they knew what the jig was up. Because they didn't have a deliverable device or even a device that could blow up. I mean, they had a few tests that were kind of almost doing it, but not quite. So, but they knew what it was. So they had the technology, relatively since the Korean War, right? I mean, if North Korea can get it, Japan already has it, right? They had enough money to buy it too. So that's the nuclear war that's going to happen, is between China and Japan, and a few missiles might get thrown here and there at a few places other than Japan and China, but they will, Pakistan and India may throw a few at each other. North Korea might try and throw a few at us, but we have other stuff, that makes nuclear weapons look like nothing. But the problem with that is, see, the United States ain't a capitalist society. We are we are a capitalist state that has state capitalism, whereas China is state capitalism. We are a capitalist state. And so, everything's a corporation and everything is the bottom line. And that is what we have to define as the alternative aesthetic, something that is a inoculation. You want to inoculate something. We need to inoculate our culture and our economy from this neo liberal capitalist state oligarchy, right? There's a mouthful if you ever heard one. And we have to stop this. Okay, so it's 10:58. Just as I was saying, we have to stop this. See what Van Devine says. My friend in the Navy said they made it in the lab and the animal test subjects got put in the wrong basket. I wouldn't doubt it. Like I said, it was either gross incompetence, someone infected themselves and ran out of the lab, or they, some faction in the CCP said, hey, let's throw the dice. Right? Yep. Both were great, The Stand, right? And it was like, everyone dies except the Satanists who are in Las Vegas and the angelic sweeties that are in Boulder, Colorado. And if you've ever lived in Boulder, Colorado, you know that that's, it's like the biggest heroin town there is, right? So, but it is a nice place, But everyone, they are so into their own beliefs and got their head up their ass. It's so neoliberal. I mean, one of my goddaughters lives there. And when she got married, I went up there a month before and lived with her and her husband to be, and made a film about them, about, who they were and what they did. They had a little business washing windows and all this, and, capture them, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then the wedding, and then the wedding party, and all the rest. And when I couldn't stand it anymore for that month that I was with them, I would go up to Estes Park, because there's Boulder, and then up here at the top of, the divide is Estes Park. And that's about, 11,000 feet up. And if you're not used to being up that high, you get, kind of what people are experiencing with the Nouveau 19. It's, oxygen deprivation. When you go up above 10,000 feet, the air gets thinner. If your lungs aren't used to breathing that, it's, when those guys that's why they have to take oxygen when they climb Everest. Unless you go there and stay there 6 months at base camp and let your body get acclimated, not going to happen. So Nouveau 19, 3, ABC. A, you just get the sniffles. B, kicks your ass. And if you got anything wrong with you, it kills you, right? And it kills you from basically, you represent as if you're having oxygen, you turn blue, you can't breathe. Even though these morons are sticking people on ventilators, which forces air into your lungs and expands and contracts your lungs, does the breathing for you, your body is not absorbing oxygen. And that's, something to deal with biology, chemistry, and a few other things. And they're not looking at any of that. I've read a number, and see, that's really the thing that the CDC isn't doing. And JAMA has been writing things, dissing the CDC about that, JAMA is saying, hey, we got to look at this thing outside this isn't a disease. It's acting like a biological weapon. We should be looking at this on a genetic level, forget, the ventilators. This is something else was going on here, right? Because a third of the population it's, they do the test and they see they have the antibodies. They hardly had sniffles. Other half of those people die. Third group seems to be going after people of color, Black, Hispanic, and certain elements of the Chinese. Not all of them, just certain elements, like the Uyghurs, right? So if this, and the other thing about this, this strand, is that, whenever you use CRISPR on something, there's some real, you can see, because it's like, here's the RNA, clip, right? And then it's stuck together. And the thing about CRISPR, you could like cut it before CRISPR, but the things wouldn't work. But no matter what genetic material you put together, if you put it in a sequence using the CRISPR, it'll work. And so that's why this thing has stuff of AIDS, stuff of the bats, stuff of Ebola. The stuff that's killing people is the Ebola stuff. The AIDS is you're getting infected and not showing for anywhere from 14 days to 40 days, and that's very, AIDS, you got infected and you spread it amongst people because you didn't represent for 5, 6, 10 years. And all that time you're infecting thousands of people, right? So that's why this thing looks so to Cliff High's channel, Clear Thinking or something close to that. That's all he talks about. And, because he's, this computer programmer that had a whole career of modeling things, and that he worked for DARPA and the government military, modeling nuclear war, chemical war, biological war. So, he was one of the first guys I saw, like in February, talking about this, right? And now what he's gone and modeled is how this is just going to, forget about going back to whatever we had. Never going to happen. He said, China is toast. China will not be able to reinvigorate its economy to be the worker slaves to make cheap crap for us, right? Never, not going to happen anymore. And that was the little sleight of hand that Mr. Global used to distract us. While we were going deeper and deeper into debt and our economy was being, cored out and destroyed, we were given trinkets at the Dollar Tree, and at Walmart today. I haven't had a sense of time, for me to figure out what time it was. I had to turn on my car, So I went and bought myself a clock, very nice clock, clock with, a light diode lighting it up for night, and takes one AA battery and runs it for a whole year. And it costs $4 at Walmart's. I bought myself a really great orange squeezer, $2.95 at Walmart's. The best thing about Walmart's is not buying whatever, walking through and buying a basket full of stuff. Is you go through and, like, I bought myself, I have no money, right? I wanted an orange juice squeezer. I saw that orange juice squeezer was like $16 when it was first put on the shelf. But when it was on the clearance shelf, it was under $3. That clock was about $8 when it was first put on the shelf. It was $3 when they wanted to get rid of it. I bought my winter coat, kitty section. It's lighter than a feather, but I have no idea what they got it stuffed with. But you put it on and it keeps you 98 degrees. It's like unbelievable. And it's got this hood that has this little bit of fleece, not the whole inside fleece, will make it too heavy, just this right around your neck, from just below your neck to just where your ears are. It's got fleece on the little hoodie, and it keeps you warm. It's like the styrofoam cup of this coat keeping my coffee of my body warm. And it goes almost between my hips and my knees, right? And it's this, you've seen me, and it's this really wild, crazy electric pink purple, right? And it zips up like a woman's coat. So the thing's on the opposite side from what a guy's coat is. And so somebody noticed that you're wearing a lady's coat. I said, yeah, look, and isn't it great? Why do women only get this? I said, this thing, and you're wearing a lady's coat. I said, yeah, look, and isn't it great? Why do women only get this? I said, this thing, and you know what it cost me? It was on closure, and it cost $5. And I was looking at it when it was $32 around Christmas time because I needed a winter coat. And luckily, they switched to their spring outfits in January. So I bought that sucker. What? $5? So that's the kind of stuff I buy in. And I almost bought. They had a Carhartt knockoff overalls. Winter insulated. Right? They were $66 Christmas time. They went down to $12, and I didn't have the $12, so I could choice between my medicine, and I already had two of those. They're all beat up and funked, not brand spanking new, but I still had two. So why did I need a third one? Even though it would be brand spanking new. Now, if I had that $12, I surely would have bought it, but I didn't. But I needed a clock. And I really wanted an orange juice squeezer, and they were right in there. So that's the only good thing for Walmart, and that's going out. Walmart's is not going to. Walmart's is going to be the new prison system, really. I love the movie. Okay, that's twice a film for them. Yep. This was no accident. This is very true. This was no accident. But if you go watch Cliff Hyde, and I've played a number of his clips, it's pretty obvious these guys are desperate, and so they just, they've been planning, Agenda 21 and Agenda 30, and Micro Billy Penis, his Event 201, which they just did in October, which was a blueprint. Exactly what's going on. And that's why he's going, we have to do this, and everyone has to stay in their house for the next 18 months. And, because he wants to destroy the economy, so we all have to be, Satanist Bolsheviks, so, but it ain't going to work, right? Ain't going to work. And there are all kinds of other unexpected agendas, like ET showing up. That's, first, I think there's going to be a little tussle in the muscle in Japan, and all the other tussles, between India and Pakistan and a few others, and those will be enough. All we have to do is detonate 100 nuclear weapons within a space of a month, and we will go into a nuclear winter. And with them, because they don't have the markets, because these vegetables were meant to go to restaurants. Well, why don't you have a lot of hungry people in Florida? Why did why a bunch of other people picking that stuff and giving it to hungry people who are waiting online for 10-mile long line for the 2 days? It's as our friend Tom said, this was no accident. This is a script, and it's straight out of Event 201. Go read it. They put it up online. It's still there, So, but the thing that history teaches us is the unexpected consequence. So all these morons think they're so smart, Micro Billy Penis thinks he's so smart, but the unexpected consequence is going to come and get him. And it happens every freaking time, every freaking time. And FDR, right? They said, you did such a great thing. You saved, the average man from the Depression, blah, blah, blah. And FDR said, no. They said, what do you mean? No. He said, no, I saved capitalism. That's capitalism, not for the average man. He said, those morons on Wall Street didn't realize it's like Louis saying, let them eat cake. Well, you can't starve 30% of your population. Yes, you can starve the poor people who always know starvation, but that 30% of the population we were starving were people who were middle class, who had mortgages and jobs and cars and houses and kids going to school. Those people will come after you, you know. And they were, the bonus army was in D.C., right on the mall. 1 million people staring up at FDR, and that's why he drove down there in his little limo and talked to them. And who's the guy who had the bee movement? The guy who wrote the book, Sinclair Lewis. He wrote a really great book called The Razor's Edge. He wrote a lot of other great books, but Sinclair Lewis was in San Francisco and East America talking to people. And by the time he got to Washington, D.C., he had 1 million people with him. And, that's what we need to do, Start at one end of the country and just walk across. And everyone who's kind of fed up with just the last 3 weeks should show up in D.C. around October. Right? Maybe sooner, maybe August. So, this is event 201. Yep, that's right. And as Tom said, this is no accident. Right? So, and that's why I keep, 2 years ago, I was saying, hey, we're first it was 40 days and 40 nights out in the desert, just like all the great folks who had a vision, Moses and Jesus and all the other great prophets, Muhammad, Buddha, they all had their 40 days out there in the hinterlands. John the Baptist. And then we went on into, the window of opportunity. And we're still that. We're on the countdown. We're on the countdown tour right now. So today is day 209 of the window of opportunity. And we're counting down, right? And so we have 209 days. I mean, just look how squirrely it gets day to day, And I love Carrot Head because, like I said, he lies so much, he tells the truth. Everything he says is pretty much right on, but he is so sociopathic and, nihilistic, and it always has to be about him, egocentric, that it's like, that of nuttiness. And if people would just step back, and get, bring the peripheral vision like this, they would see the entities on the side just pulling the levers of this, right? Yep. Surreal and weird every day. But if you put it into context, it's and everything is going down on tape and hard drives, and 1,000 years are going to be looking at every nanosecond to nanosecond of this, and you're going to see how, like I said, if you can go into state and narrow your peripheral vision so you can see like if you've ever seen a movie and a film back in the day, some movies, they had these little sprocket holes. And so you had each frame of the movie, and along the side, you had another optical thing of the sound. It wasn't like back in the day. So what they did was they had an optical thing that could the sound of the movie. Right, and that was the first movies. And sometimes, so they had these sprockets that had it timed, so everything, the voice and the mouth and the sound, would all kind of come together. But sometimes you had these little knobs on either side of the projector that you could move the what you saw on the big screen. And so sometimes the guy would fall asleep, and that's why they had a guy up there all the time, because he was constantly adjusting things. And it's being projected by an arc lamp. Sucker gets really hot, so that film has to move on. And it's, back in the days, it used to be made out of this material that cellulose, but something close to that was highly flammable. So if it got too hot, the thing would just, and there were a lot of movies. That's why the projection booth was a concrete encased by metal. And when the thing was running, the only little, opening of that box was where the light came out to go to the screen. And if there was a fire, it would, and so it would stay inside there. And then the oxygen would go out and the fire would go out. Of course, the projectionist usually died, but that was reality of film, right? So that's the reality. The same thing. We're in this metal box, concrete steel metal box, and the only thing that we get to look out is this little hole, just like Plato's metaphor of the cave, where we are chained to look in one direction only, right? The opening of the cave is behind us. We can't see it. We can't move our head. We're chained like this. And the light from the outside is projected past us onto the cave wall in front of us. And so as people walk, is the reality we're experiencing, right? And so they're constantly putting this image. So in that guy, he's adjusting the frame. If he falls asleep and the frame does this, you start seeing, all of the data on the side that you don't normally, all you see is the frame by frame going 22 frames and you see a moving picture. But the soundtrack and other information tracks were on that cellulose film, and you'd see the sprockets, right? And if you started to see the sprockets, that meant that the film wasn't moving through the projector like it should, and it would heat up and catch fire. And that's why the guy's supposed to not fall asleep up there, right? But if you see the movie 400 times, you kind of get bored and you fall asleep. So that is the reality that we are in. So if you can turn the little knobs on the side and move the whole image in, you will see the creatures that are manipulating all of this. The creatures that David Icke talked about. There are a lot of people, not just David Icke, there are a lot of folks who have their own little bent. What is it? Dana Ashley. She's an interesting girl. And again, if you talk, Miss Eisenhower, those three people right there. Linda Moulton Howe. Who else is another good person to listen to? Those if you just, David Icke, Linda Moulton Howe, Miss Eisenhower, and Dana Ashley. Those four, right? They're very different, but pretty much they've learned how to move the perspective in, and they're seeing the things in the peripheral, right? And you too can see that, Anyway, 11:22. I'm getting tired. So, well, we're down to 3. We were almost up to 12. So probably maybe 50 people watch this one. So love you guys. We'll see if it's another beautiful day. I wake up and it's sunny and I get out of bed and take a shower, and before 9 o'clock, I get out the door from my neighbor and go down to the deep green. I'm really getting it into shape. As soon as it is warm enough, because I got up this morning, it was in the 30s. If I was sleeping on my little bed rack down in the deep green, ooh, it'd be nippy because I have no heat whatsoever. I'm surrounded. If it rains or snows, I don't get snowed on or rained on. But once it gets to the point where it doesn't go below, let's say, 45, and doesn't May, second week of May, I'll be able to stay there comfortably, right? The other, I've gotten it's really bushy here, meaning I'm like, 10 steps to toilet, where my bed rack and my toilet are 2 football fields away. And to, do that at night, got to walk up a hill, a path through the woods to go use the toilet. That's why I use a bucket. I got a granny seat outside of my little bed rack. So, but even that is, not as comfortable as, walking in my bare, I got to almost get dressed to use the granny seat, right? And, so, but it's still, better than a stick in the eye. But it's heat here. Oh, and there's a hot shower. He's got like 100-gallon tank. And really killer water pressure. And I don't, basically it rains, I get out with a bar of soap in the deep green. That's kind of how I go. A neighbor was going by me, and I have a forest road to get out of the deep green. And I got a neighbor who's just, a mile that side of me of the forest road. And he basically, I'm there. I'm wearing my shorts, but I'm basically all soaked up, and it's raining hard. But it was like 80 degrees out, and the rain was warm. It was actually quite nice. And he stops and he rolls down. What are you doing? I said, what's it look like I'm doing? I'm taking a shower. He goes, but you're outside. I said, yeah, it's the best way to do. You should try it. And he looks at me. I mean, he likes me. I've known him at least 4 years, and I'm always there to help him out, And so he's, I'm definitely, so I've kind of loosened him up on the way to look at things. But I know I can't, I don't try to convince him of anything. I just, like I said, lead by example. So he's come over and I've cooked him a meal, and, I'll make a really nice stew, and he'll bring a can of, Chef Boyardee raviolis and eat it out of the can. I said, don't you want me to heat that up for you? No, I like it cold like this. So he's got his own way of, so I'm not going to change him, but he is at least comfortable with me. And what he's totally amazed at, he's got all these big killer dogs, and they barely kill him. They can get pretty rowdy, but so one time they got out and they came down and stayed with me, and he was driving all over Hell's Creation looking for him, and then he finally came by and said, my dogs, they've been missing for 2 days. I said, yeah, they've been right here. He goes, what? I said, yeah, they're right here. Hey, and I whistled, and they were sleeping under the bus, and they came out, and he goes, why didn't you come and tell me? I said, well, they didn't want to go home. They wanted to stay here. And I knew that at some point you would finally come and ask me if I seen them. Now, if you did that first, they would have been here. And I said, there they are. But it's 2 days later, and what has happened? you have gotten totally frizzed out because he paid an arm and a leg for these dogs, thousands of dollars a piece. And they were no different than any kind of, pit bull mix you could have gotten at, the dog pound for nothing, for, getting them fixed and shots. Anyway, so he kind of said, they obey you so well. I said, yeah, you just have to talk to him and be nice to him and not yell at him and not, do the same thing all the time. That's what I do with these guys. They have to, not run, they can run around, but they can't get into trouble. They can't go, bother other people and they can't go, bother other people. And they mostly have to sleep under the bus. And as long as they do that, I share my food with them. I don't have a dog food. I just give them what I am eating, and they seem to like that better. They like the thing of sharing as a pack. And the other thing is, I tell them what to do. So I can't tell them. They always, they don't listen to me. I said, you have to be the alpha dog, and this is how you deal with dogs. And they don't want to, think of what to do. They just want to sleep under the bus, So I sent him home, and he kind of picked up a number of, things. Doesn't yell at him. He used to just yell at him. You could hear him. He's a mile away from me, and I could hear him. And he's also on a different part of a holler where I shouldn't hear anything. That's how loud he was screaming at these dogs. And so now he's like their family. And he really, really, so that's one thing that made him go, well, hell. So anyway, and he comes down and he because he's got nobody to talk to. So other than my other neighbor who lets me stay in his basement, he too has his own point of view, but he likes the fact that he can talk to me and I don't really, basically it's his opinion and that's fine. That's good, right? It's interesting, I don't judge him. And I think he's had a lot of people judging him. So he likes the fact that I don't judge him, and that again, I'm the guy who kind of helps him. I mean, he's smart. He's younger than I am. He's in better shape than I am, even though he had open heart surgery. So he likes the fact that, and I take care of certain little things so he doesn't have to worry about this, that, or the other thing. And so he likes that. So, and I seem to be his rabbit's foot because he's had pretty good luck since I've been staying here, and he too, he's not a blogger. He too came here about 2 years ago. The other guy's been here 4 years. Both of them rent their place, right? Because this neck of the woods, even though the rich people can't stand being here because it's 15 miles so close as Walmart's, it is slowly being gentrified because it's beautiful. It's amazing. Lots of water, big lakes, rushing rivers, waterfalls. It's really beautiful. But you kind of have to slow down and just be here to appreciate it. And as people are realizing maybe that's what they should do, more and more people have been buying up the little farms here and the hollers there, and but if we go into a depression, that'll end. So because people who have, and so they buy these things up, and they people who want bed and breakfast kind of thing, and so, but that since this thing happened, there's nobody been here. So, and this is when the season should be really hopping, and there's nobody around. Nobody. Last here this time. There's only one road through here. I mean, one paved county kind of road, and it connects 3 states and 2 big cities, right? So there's a lot of commercial traffic because there's no other ways to get there. I mean, there's even if you went over there to come over here, there's just this squiggly road that connects these 2 places, and in the last 2 years, the traffic, and I pretty much have been here straight since last May, right? So I'll be here a whole year full. Now I went and visited Roanoke maybe 5 times for a few days or a week or maybe even 2 weeks at a time when I had to go see my doctors, get my eyes operated, this, that, and the other thing. But because all of that has collapsed, I mean, the HMO, the nonprofit entity that used to take care of me, has been taken over by a large multi-zillion-dollar insurance company, and they only take rich people now. They got rid of the sliding scale. They got rid of Medicaid, Medicare, and it's only if you're on that insurance company's insurance do you get them. So that went away. And my being able to get my medicines, if I have to go to a corporate pharmacy or even a mom and pop pharmacy, my medicines are about $3,800 a month, whereas that HMO was getting me my medicines for $40 for 90 days, like 3 months, and I could afford that. So since that happened, which was, when did that happen? That happened in January, just really hit the fan. That was the first thing. And so I've had to change my diet and take things from the forest. And it's actually worked pretty good, because I have a doc here that kind of takes care of me. I mean, they don't have a tenth of the technology or resources or assets that HMO had, but it's better than nothing. And they, take my blood pressure, my temperature, my oxygen metabolism, and my blood sugar, and so I don't take my blood pressure medicine or my cholesterol medicine or my diabetes medicine or any of the other medicines that I had because I can't afford them. It's $3,800 a month, and I get $481 a month, right? And Medicaid, Medicare barely does anything around here because the state didn't join it. Anyway, so the guy is amazed because my blood pressure is 130/70, and my cholesterol's in pretty good shape, and my cholesterol's in pretty good shape, and my blood sugar. What to eat? So, like selling at Walmart's for 57 cents, they were selling at Walmart's for 57 cents, and they were selling for $5 before Easter, and they were selling at the Dollar Tree for $1, and now they were selling at a dime. So I did buy, because I like to cook with chocolate. It changes it in such a way that it's not as bad as if you're eating at the bar itself. So, like a Moliere. So, so my diet is, basically it's, vegetables and beans and rice and eggs and cheese, pretty much it. So just by being a little more focused on my diet, it's, all those things have stayed pretty good. So, and that's, the title of this thing, You Can Make Your Own Reality. And so with that, I'm going to leave you with Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. As was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And in every day and every way we'll take the peace of the earth and make it stronger with service to love's co-creation. And Father Sky, hear our prayer. Bless us indeed, enlarge our territory. Put your hand on our shoulder and keep us from evil, so we will do no harm. And Hail Mary, full of grace, Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and the hour of our death. Amen. As was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And in every day and every way we will take the peace of the earth and make it stronger in service to love's co-creation. And Mother Earth, connect our chi through you to Father Sky's prana, so we can be blessed indeed by you both, that you will enlarge our territories, that you will put your hand on our shoulders and keep us safe from evil, so we will do no harm. As it was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without amen. And thank you, Cadre, for coming. It was a nice evening, and I love you all. Remember, get a hold of me at thedudeawake42@gmail. If you want to throw anything on my PayPal, give it a try. Some people work. I haven't gone to my computer guru. I just, I get up, I go down the green. It's beautiful. I don't leave, So anyway, one day I'll go check that out. But give it a try, see if it works. Get a hold of the Gmail definitely works. A lot of you talk to me, and you can get a hold of me, personally that way. Go see my novels and stories at xratted.blogspot.com and leave some responses there. I'd love to know what you think of it. Leave some responses down here. Let's have some more thumbs up. I was up to 373 subscribers, and I'm down to 269. Go think. Anyway, I love you all. Stay in touch. Catch you later. See you tomorrow.